So welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and I'm a gorilla in the wrist. Today we're looking at this Pagani Design PD1761. I picked it up on AliExpress for about £35 before tax. Clearly this is a PRX chrono, or at least inspired by a PRX chrono. The question is, how good is it and how does this stack up with the current PD lineup? Let's get into it. In my research, I couldn't find that Tissot do a quartz version. I could be wrong, and please drop a note in the comment if I am. I would be curious to know. All of their PRX chronos seem to be mechanical chronographs, and quite pricey, coming in 1100-1200 and upwards from there. But this is clearly something different. So let's just talk about the watch first, shall we? So it has a really fairly well brushed, zoom in a bit so you can see it. It has a fairly well brushed case body. It's got some nice polished chamfered edges as well, so I think you have to give it credit for that. The bezel clearly has got a really high polish on it to give you a little bit of contrast. And that dial, the dial is a gorgeous, I'm going to call it teal blue. And it has 3 silvery white subdials. The hands are very simple fence posts. They are loomed, but we're going to get onto the old story about loom with Pagani later on. But they do stretch all the way out to the hour indices and to the minute track that goes all the way around the outside. The second hand on the dial itself is the chrono hand, and it has simple batons for indices all the way around at all numerals. There's no numerals at all on this. The 3 subdials, the 3 o'clock subdial is a 24-hour indicator. The 6 o'clock subdial is the small seconds, and the 9 o'clock is the chrono minutes. It has Pagani Design and the Pagani Design emblem above the pinion, and then at the 6 o'clock it has Japan movement. The crown is screw down and also has the emblem. The pushers are, I would suggest, are fairly well polished and quite clunky as well. They really give you a good firm feedback when you use them. The case back is screw down, and this watch has 100 meters of water resistance. Simply says stainless steel, Pagani Design, 100 meter water resistance, and PD1761 at the back in a mixture of brush and polish. But a screw down case back. And then finally, in terms of the bracelet itself, is really nice. It's got a really decent polishing. It's clearly integrated into the body of the watch, but articulates really nicely. It has a butterfly clasp, so there's no micro adjust on this, but it works perfectly well. Has Pagani Design on each of the end links, and yeah, it's quite impressive, I have to say. Yeah, I really like it. But that dial is a bit of a stunner. I am quite smitten with the colour, shall we say. So let's get into the detailed specifications. So let's just run very quickly through the facts and figures for this one. So the dial width is 39mm, not 40mm as claimed in the bump. The lug to lug is claimed at 45mm, but we'll come back to that. There isn't really a lug width because it's an integrated bracelet. The bracelet is 26mm where it enters the watch and goes all the way down to 20mm. It's a very nice 11mm thick because it's housing that VK63 movement, weighs in at 144 grams. It has 100 meters of water resistance and is covered by a really nice flat sapphire crystal. So what are my gripes about this watch? So it's a cheap Pagani design watch, and you've just seen the loom shot. I don't know why it is Pagani design. Just don't do loom. I'll give you an extra $10. Just please, please, please put decent loom on it. It can't be that hard. So the PD loom is up to its usual quality and standard, i.e. not very good. The next thing, and this is entirely personal, and I feel a bit mean saying it, I don't like butterfly clasps. I don't like the fact that you can't adjust the watch. And this isn't a light watch. At 144 grams, this is a reasonably hefty watch to wear. And I got lucky is that actually it fits me fine. And there aren't really half links, so the links aren't huge in the watch, and they are just push pins. But for me, I don't think you can guarantee getting a good fit. I'm also just slightly, when I just play with the bracelet, you can see there's a little bit of movement there between the end links, but it does seem very solid. But my big problem with this watch, it's not a huge problem, my big problem is just how badly the end links going into the body of the case actually articulate, because they don't articulate at all. And this does something to how it wears. I'm going to stick it on wrist in a minute and you'll see what I mean. And it might be because I'm a gorilla, so I have to be absolutely upfront and say that. It may just be the size of my wrist that's the problem and not the watch. However, this has a claimed lug-to-lug of 45mm. However, by the time you've added in these inarticulating end links, that stretches up to 50. And at that point, it's starting to get a little bit tricky for people with smaller wrists. So just be aware of that. But let me show you what happens because of these inarticulating end links. Bear with me a second. So that's the problem. I don't think you can see it particularly well. It doesn't sit right on my wrist. Both end links stick up at a funny angle. Now, as I say, it could be that that's entirely because I'm a gorilla. And I've got a wide wrist, so therefore that's what happens. But it's a shame, because it does very slightly let this watch down. And my normal answer when I'm whinging about a problem with a Pagani design bracelet, my usual answer is to take it off and sling on a decent strap of my own. But clearly, as an integrated bracelet, you can't do that with this. And so I think this probably represents a bit of a problem. So in terms of the things that I really like about this watch, so I think the first thing I have to say, that colour is gorgeous. Now they do it in 3 colourways. They do it in a black, they do it in white, and they do it in a blue. Of those 3 colourways, this is the one that really, really sings, and I mean really sings. It's lovely. It's a lovely watch to look at. So yes, I think the colour is gorgeous. I'm finding the finishing on this watch pretty good at this price point. In fact, I think the finishing on this watch is pretty good at a price point up to $100. It's really well done. Particularly on the bracelet, it kind of flows really well. They've done pretty well, I think, at matching the bracelet to the brushing on the case, and that sort of high polish on the bezel itself. Again, just really good contrast, really works well. As I say, I think at this price, I think that's pretty impressive. Which I guess then moves us into the sort of the final thing that I like about this, because you know I'm a cheap bastard, you really all do. I picked this one up for 35 quid before taxes, paid a little bit of tax, but we're talking Casio money, and this, aside from the loom, this is an absolute spec monster. It's got a Seiko movement in it. It's got sapphire crystal. It's stainless steel. 100 meters water resistance, ignoring the inarticulated links. You just get so much for your money. This is one of the sort of ultimate bang for buck brands. So I'm going to have a go at summing this one up. So I think in and of itself, even allowing for the flaws in those inarticulating end links, this is a fantastic watch. At 35 quid, it's just brilliant stuff. And in terms of answering that question that I set out in the introduction, which is how does this one stack up in the long line of £40 Pagani design watches that I seem to have reviewed in the last few months? I think the answer is yeah, this really holds up. Clearly there's no credit for the design because, as with all their watches, they are homages. But Pagani do these chronographs really, really well. Sorry, that's the cat battering into the... thanks, Bet. So the 1645, which again is one of my favourite chronographs, there's just something about how they do these that is absolutely remarkable. You can kind of see the genus of how they ended up with these. These are fairly similar type watches, although very, very different in terms of look. But it's just something that they do really well. I can't imagine buying a chronograph from anywhere else. I know there are lots of good ones. I know there's lots of good mechanical movements, but these are so reliable and so robust and so cheap, so affordable. Why would you go anywhere else? So to answer my original question, is this another in a long line of extremely good £40 Pagani design watches? Yeah, it is. I'll put an affiliate link to it in the description. But that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for seeing through to the end. It's Saturday afternoon. There's rugby on this afternoon. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, have a fantastic weekend. And I look forward to seeing you back very soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.